Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified Podcast, your home for all things Washington Commanders. We are back in full force. Eric, L.E., and Brian, we are back tonight to talk about what the quarterback position is going to look like now that Ron Rivera has come out and said that Sam Howell is not the starter. He is QB1 going into the offseason. We're going to break down what that means and how much that matters. But first, as always, take a moment to subscribe. Find a button somewhere on your screen that says subscribe and do it. If you're listening to us on audio, shout out to the people that have been with us in the beginning. Make sure you're subscribed, locked into your Commanders Declassified Podcast. We love having you and we love talking to you. But we are back and ready to rock and roll tonight. Hey, I don't know if we celebrated this, but we got over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We blew past that on our way to 1,100 and eventually 1 million. So shout out to everybody who has subscribed from the beginning and recently. We appreciate every one of you. Shout out to we had our video on Eric Bieniemy has gone over 7,000 views in just a couple of weeks. We appreciate that too, man. You guys are absolutely awesome to us, and we could never repay you. But we appreciate you checking us out anyway. All right. Some quick news off the top. Eric, Deron Payne, the franchise tag was placed on him. It's about 18 milli. Right move or wrong move?
I don't like it. I get why they're doing it. I still think he could be traded. I'm not a huge fan of the move because you're already paying a boatload of money to John Allen. Now you're paying $18 million to Deron Payne. Really, this all goes back to Carson Wentz last year. Signing him prevented you from extending Payne, which led to this. Now we don't have Carson Wentz, and we're overpaying, Deron Payne for a 1-year rental. So we'll see how it turns out. Not that I don't like Deron Payne. I don't want any Payne stands coming after me. I do love Deron Payne as a player, but the franchise tag is never an optimal outcome for either side. So I hope it gets resolved. If a long-term deal can be done, awesome. If not, maybe we can get some compensation for him in the draft. We just really hate to see him have to play on the franchise tag this year, but we might.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see if Payne shows up to offseason activities with the franchise tag, or is he going to hold out for a trade or a long-term deal? I don't have any indication one way or another. It's just an interesting thing to see because you're right, Eric. We're going to have about $32 million wrapped up in our defensive tackle. No, $42 million wrapped up in our defensive tackle position.
No, we're not paying for John Allen $20 million.
He's $24 million against the cap this year, I believe.
Oh my
goodness!
And
Deron Payne is $18 million, so $42 million against the cap this year in our defensive tackle positions. I cannot imagine it stays that way. They have to get something done long term for Deron Payne. It's in the best interest of both parties. You are absolutely correct. Brian, Carson Wentz was officially cut today, but I don't want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about Brian McCain being released. Right idea? Bobby McCain.
Brian McCain. Yeah. Excellent idea. And again, my first words on this podcast were Bobby McCain's not a free safety. It took Rivera 2.5 years to figure that out, that he is a slot corner. You can go out and find a slot corner. We've got some other guys we can use in slot corner now. He was making probably a little bit more than he needed to play slot corner. So absolutely, you've got younger guys, use them. Money can be better spent elsewhere. So adios to Bobby McCain. I heard a lot of media, talk about Bobby McCain as if he was like some kind of all-pro player. I'm sure, he was a nice guy in the locker room, but there are better players out there. We've got younger players who I think are better as well, too. So, yeah, that was a good move, and good for Ron for making that move because he's struggled to make these types of moves and move on from players who really don't move the needle.
You can always tell who, whenever a media member like really writes like an obituary for a player that leaves, it's almost always because that was a player that talked to them on a regular basis. It was one of their sources. You can always tell who the sources are based on that.
Yep.
Telling on themselves. Absolutely. Ron said that the development of Derek Forrest and Cam Curl obviously allowed that to happen. They, of course, will need a new nickelback. We'll see who that'll be. And Carson Wentz, I think I was the primary one of us that was heavy on that Carson Wentz bandwagon after week 1 of the season. He is out of here. He is gone. It is what it is. It didn't work. I don't know what the rest of his career looks like. And then honestly, from this point forward, it doesn't really matter anyway. He will not be here next year. They are going to go in a different direction. And we thought up until this point that that direction was without a doubt Sam Howell. However, today, Ron Rivera, when speaking live from the combine, was asked about Sam Howell as QB1 for like the 38th time. And today he said he is not necessarily the starter, right? He is not the starter. He is QB1 going into the offseason program. Eric, I ask you, what did Ron Rivera really mean?
I think he meant that there's no game Sunday. So why name a starter? Yeah, he's obviously QB1 because he's the only quarterback on the roster. He's not naming him the starter because there's no good can come from just calling him the starter from now, I don't think. And there's no game this weekend, so there's no need to actually name him a starter. I think what he meant is he's going to get the first team reps. To me, it says it's Sam's job to lose, but he's not going to crown a week 1 starter in February, as he shouldn't, as Sam Howell was a 5th round pick. I still think Sam Howell's going to be the starter. And I think what it'll be really telling, Ron did say that they want to bring in a veteran, and it'll be really telling, who they bring in will tell you whether or not they really are pushing for Sam to be the starter, right? If they bring back Taylor Heineke, which I wish they wouldn't do, if they bring in Teddy Bridgewater or Jacoby Brissett, somebody like that, it's more than likely as they want Sam Howell to win that job. If they bring in Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold or Ryan Tannehill, whatever, then those are the guys that may push for a starting job, and maybe they're not so sold on Sam as they've kind of made it out to be. So it'll be telling to see who they sign. But I think just right now, you say he's QB1 because he's the only one, and there's no point in naming starter in February.
Yeah, Brian, did that change how confident you were in Howell being the guy week 1 next year at all with what Rivera said today?
No. What did Shakespeare tell us? It's much ado about nothing. This is essentially what he said before. He said, Howell would be the guy going in, or QB1 going into OTAs, offseason workouts, training camp, but that he would still have to earn the job. And again, even in those earlier comments, he never anointed him the starter for the season. And this is just another way to say Sam Howell is not the starter for the season. He's going to get first shot at it, and I think that's clear. To me, this isn't anything but just kind of a reiteration of the same thing he's been saying. Does it mean that am I still confident that he gets or he can win the job? Yes, because I think they want him to win it, and like Eric said, you'll know exactly where they stand when they bring in that said veteran. If it is somebody who doesn't want to be a backup, that you'll find out very quickly. But to me, this is the same thing he's been saying. Sam Howell has to earn it, which he's been consistent about. Sam's got to earn the starting job.
For me, I think it alters things. I'm not going to say dramatically, but significantly. Coaches say things sometimes, and it's just sort of a throwaway comment. I don't think that's what this was. I think it leaves a door open to them changing their mind about Sam Howell and them changing their mind about their offseason plans. I don't know what their offseason plans are, but up until today, I had really settled on the fact, and I'm not going to say I loved it, I'm not going to say I hated it, but I really settled on the fact that Sam Howell was going to be it, and they were going to bring in somebody of low caliber to just give him guidance in his journey to be a starter, which, quite honestly, if I'm Eric Bieniemy, it never made a lot of sense to me. Not saying that Howell shouldn't win the job, but he should definitely have competition for the job, right? Real competition, not just throwaway folks that make it look like a competition. Today, he directly came out and said something he hasn't said before, and that's say Sam Howell's not the starter. I don't take that lightly. I don't think anybody else should. Does it mean that we're going to go sign Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr? It does not. But what it does do is just leave the door open for certain moves to be made should they see fit. Now, if we get to the start of free agency and they're out here signing, guys like they have recently, I'm going to be a little bit upset about that, right? Because generally speaking, free agent quarterbacks that hit the open market aren't the kind of guys that are going to change your franchise around. The best of that bunch this year is Derek Carr, and you have to ask yourself about Derek Carr and what he could mean for this franchise long term, and more importantly, what he probably won't mean for this franchise long term, and the amount of money that it would cost to get his services. So I don't know, but I think the door is open a little bit more than what it was recently, and I did not expect to hear him say that. I don't know what the benefit of him saying that is. He's been consistent about a competition all year, but to come out and explicitly say he is not the starter, I think, to me, there's some merit to what he's saying there.
Well, it was a response to a question. He didn't come out and say it. They asked him, is Sam Howell the starter for the season? Which he had never said in the first place, Sam Howell is the starter for the season. So I think it was more that he was responding to a specific question by the media. Is he the starter for the season? Ron has always been pretty straightforward. He's the starter heading into OTAs and to training camp, and he'll have to earn it from there. So I think it was just another way to get a sound bite out of Ron, unfortunately. But Sam's got to earn it. There's no two ways around that. That was always the goal.
Yeah, he said he's not our starter. I don't know how much more plain you can be. Now, is this the Bieniemy influence weighing in here? Possibly. We just won't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. We won't know. We don't have a way to know. But the door is open. Period. And as it should be for somebody with 11 throws. Let me be clear. 11 completions in the NFL, 19 throws. The door should be open. And they need to evaluate everything that they can to put our team in a position to win this year, aside from reckless personnel decisions that lead to us not being able to improve a good bit of the other parts of the roster. All right. We're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the combine and potential quarterbacks there. So you guys know, everybody listening and watching, you guys know the combine is where guys move all over the draft board based on an hour workout, right? GMs forget about the tape. They forget about the film, and they start giving into the aesthetics of somebody. So the combine's coming up. The Commanders will be there in full force. You're going to have, Bryce Young is not going to work out at the combine. At least he's not going to throw. You do have Will Levis. You got your guys like C.J. Stroud will work out. Anthony Richardson will work out. Guys like that. Now, Eric, when we're talking about quarterbacks that are going to be at the combine, is there any quarterback that could potentially catch the GM triumvirate's eyes and potentially have them move into the thought process of taking a quarterback in round 1 or 2 during this draft season?
If you are you're going to do your homework on all of these guys, and if you see for some reason CJ Stroud drops to 16, you take him. You just do, right? Unless like there's a medical problem, or if Bryce Young were to drop, you give that serious consideration. Even Will Levis, maybe. Not in love with him, but one of those guys, should they drop. We know which one I hate. I don't think we need to go into that. At least favorite guy. There's no chance in hell I'm ever taking that dude. But AR. Oh boy, Mr. Combine workout warrior himself. Is going to blow everybody away with his athleticism and play terrible quarterback in the NFL. But no, you have to do your homework because you never know how the draft is going to shake out, and there could be an opportunity to grab one of those guys. And like I said, if somebody like CJ Stroud is there at like 9 or 10, I might even consider he's my favorite quarterback coming out, and I might consider moving up for him. Maybe, but again, there's a lot that goes into that. He's probably the only guy. Well, him and Bryce, I think. I'll throw Levis in there. Could play this year and be effective as rookies. But I think CJ Stroud is my personal favorite. So, like, if I were thinking of, I would do my homework on him. And if he's there and you're in a position to move up, why not move up, right? Use Ron Payne as a trading chip. So, yeah, you got to do your homework on these guys. I don't know that anybody's going to, make them trade into the top 5, top 10, like a no-brainer. Just make them want to do that at the combine, because if you're that swayed by somebody at the combine, then you haven't done your homework throughout the season.
Yeah. Brian, same question to you, man. Is there any quarterback that you think they might fall in love with to where they take him at 16 if they're available?
Yeah, I think the obvious ones are Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, right? If those two fall somehow and they're there at 16, I think you absolutely take them, because those two guys, I think, can win you games this year with the team we have. I think they could win you 10 games, 11 games, 12 games plus. Certainly Bryce Young can do that, hit the ground running day one. I think the other guys are more projects. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. You're not going to win this year if you take them. That is for year 3, year 4, year 5 if you take them. Ron doesn't have that kind of time. Ron may not be here past this year, right? Like, he knows that. Ron knows that. That's why Eric Bieniemy's here. If Ron thought he was going to be here, for a long time, Scott Turner would still be here. So Ron knows he has to win now. So if one of those guys were to fall, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, I think they absolutely take them, and I think they can, go win a bunch of games. I think the other two guys are going to need time, and I don't think you're going to win a lot of games in year 1. You may win some games in year 5, year 4, something like that, but it ain't going to be this year, and you're not going to be developing them. It's going to be another coach who's going to develop those two guys. So, no. And here's the other thing. If you have to trade up for one of these guys, you're giving up draft picks. So whatever quarterback that you do pick, they're going to have to learn how to fly, because we're not going to have offensive linemen to block for them, and we're not going to get the reinforcements on defense that we do need to be a successful football team. So you're going to be giving up a whole bunch to make sure that this guy will win you some games this year, hopefully, potentially. So in a year where Ron needs to win, they all need it to work this year. Bieniemy too, he needs it to work this year, not in year 5. He needs it to work this year. So I think there's only two guys who can do that for you this year. But again, if you have to move up, you're going to sacrifice building out the rest of the team in order to do it.
Yeah, I don't think moving up is an option. And I think C.J. Stroud is going to be the first quarterback taken off the board this year. I genuinely do. Bryce Young, I think he measured it like 5'10" the other day. And is like 180 pounds. I know he's trying to put on weight for the combine, but I think a lot of NFL GMs are going to be very scared by the physical profile of Bryce Young. I think he's going to drop a little bit. Will Levis, I just don't see it.
Drew Lock.
People might fall in love with his physical profile because he's a pretty big dude. I just think that the decision making for a guy with a lot of experience is just not where it needs to be. So I don't think he's going to go that high. I think Anthony Richardson is the media darling right now, and his athleticism at the combine is going to catapult him to be the second or third quarterback taken. I think he'll be gone well before 16. Well before 16.
Yeah, somebody's getting fired.
I don't think the Commanders would go for Will Levis at this point. I read online the other day his NFL comp was Jameis Winston, which I think is a pretty good comp for Will Levis.
That's generous. I was thinking Drew Lock personally.
Wait, have y'all seen Will Levis? Will Levis can run. Jameis Winston is a straight pocket passer who can barely move.
That is absolutely not true.
Jameis cannot move at all. Will Levis can run.
You haven't watched recent Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston absolutely can move the pocket. Yeah.
No.
Anyway,
he cannot move.
Yeah,
he cannot move. I don't think anyone's ever described him as a runner or being mobile. He's a pocket passer. He's a pocket passer. Levis is going to run probably in the 4.6.
Nobody cares because he's going to throw 46 interceptions next year. But
anyway, that's the Jameis comparison.
Yeah. So I think Will Levis is going to drop. What I think that, and I don't think we'll take a quarterback at 16. Let me be clear. But what I think is a possibility is a draft day trade of a current player, maybe Payne, to move back up early in the second round, late in the first, and maybe a Hendon Hooker is still there on the board. That is a quarterback that can start this year.
Hooker's going to be there way later than that.
I don't think so, man.
He'll be there at 47.
No, he won't.
Coming off that injury.
Yeah. He's not even going to be ready this year. If he plays, it's going to be like Chase Young at like the last 2 games of the year. Or the last 3 games.
Yeah, and I like Hendon Hooker. Like if he was healthy, fantastic. I like him a lot, but
exactly.
I don't think he's going to. I mean, that's a waste of a pick to take him that high because he'll be there. He might be there in round 3.
Yeah, he's not going to be ready.
Just coming off that injury, man. I do like him a lot, though.
He's projected to be ready for training camp. That report has been out there for a while. So
he's
anyway.
not going to be ready this year.
All right.
So was Logan Thomas
and Chase Young, right?
No,
all in for week one.
Completely different. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so yeah, that's my take. I don't think we're going to move up.
Nothing against Hendon. I just think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to last that long.
I like him, but he's not going to be ready just yet.
Yeah, he's absolutely going to be ready. They've already said that. But anyway, moving on. All right.
Who are they? The same people that like Richardson?
Wait, we got to talk about Richardson walks on water. There we go.
If you're not familiar with this, there's a strong debate amongst the declassified staff about the potential of Anthony Richardson. The potential is off the charts. He is athletic. He has a cannon for an arm. By the way, if you're listening or watching, leave in the comments what you think about these quarterbacks and who might be the best fit aside from Sam Howell. We know you're going to say Sam Howell. My personal perspective is that I don't think Richardson's a fit for what Bieniemy wants to do. Bieniemy wants a distributor. I think Anthony Richardson is a big arm, athletic, kind of really in a Cam Newton mold that you're going to have a particular type of offense for. But we'll see. We'll see. Nobody knows. But anyway, Jameis Winston is
going to use a first-round pick for somebody whose ceiling is Taysom Hill.
You're trolling now. I can see that.
I am trolling, but I'm also being honest.
All right. Let's go to Eric Bieniemy here. His mindset at the quarterback position. Brian, I'm going to start with you. If you're Eric Bieniemy, you got 1 year, you feel like to prove yourself. What's your mindset with the quarterback position?
My mindset is I'm going to turn water into wine. I'm going to turn Sam Howell into something that it will be impossible for an NFL owner to reject me yet again for an NFL head coaching job. I'm going to make him proficient, efficient. I'm going to make him look like a really, really good starting quarterback in the NFL so that I can get my goal, something I've worked my entire life for, which is to be a head football coach and finally realize that dream. That's his mindset. Being able to draft a rookie, that's a process that you have to develop him. That's going to take multiple years. He doesn't want to do that. He's looking to do and be his own guy, a head coach. So he's looking at this as here, I can turn this around now, get some competency out of Sam Howell and move on about my way as a head coach of some other team. So that's what I think he's looking to do. I don't believe that he's looking to be here like 3-4 years with a rookie that he's got to develop and build and craft an offense around. It would be great if he were to be here, but he should be a head coach. And I think that's what he's working on. And I think that his mindset is, again, that Ron was telling people, offensive coordinator candidates, Sam Howell is a guy that we'd like to move forward with. I don't think he would have taken the job if that wasn't something he was comfortable with doing as an option. Certainly other guys could come available, but if that's not something you're comfortable, why even try coming here? So I think that's his plan, and I think he's going to make it work, and we're all going to be amazed and shocked and odd, or at least some of us. And he's gonna have an exciting offense and build up Sam.
So the problem I think I have with your point here is that Sam Howell is effectively a rookie, right? So you're still running that same journey of you got to develop somebody. And you're talking about a 5th round pick, mind you, at that, right?
He understands technology. He's been in an NFL system, so yeah, maybe experience wise, but he's not brand new.
Yeah, 11 completions, and I'm not knocking Sam Howell. I just think there's a case that if you're going to do it for Howell, you may as well do it for somebody with higher pedigree. That's it. So, Eric, your Bieniemy hat is on. The Scott Turner hat has been officially discarded. We will never see that hat again. Put your Bieniemy hat on and take us through what you're doing at the quarterback position this year.
Yeah, I am. What's interesting about Bieniemy is there's really not a lot of those guys will come in and they'll bring somebody from their old team with them. But Chad Henne just retired. Obviously, we're not prying Mahomes away from the Chiefs, and their 3rd-string quarterback, you clearly can't pronounce his name. You'd have to trade for him if you wanted him. I think you'd have to match I think he's an exclusive rights free agent. So you have to give something up to get him. And is he, what do you know about him? I mean, maybe Bieniemy knows something that we don't. But yeah, so he will really. It seems like he might have to just start from scratch to build his system from the ground up. So why not build it around Howell, and bring in a vet that can learn quickly. I've been on. Brian and I talked about it last week. Teddy Bridgewater / Jacoby Brissett. They're basically the same guy at this point. They're guys that have played in a lot of systems. They can come in and learn and back him up, or But whatever I do, I'm gonna protect my quarterback. You're not going to put games on him from the get-go unless you think he can handle it, which maybe he will, but we won't know that for a while through the whole offseason program. They're not going to know anything about that. So I'm going in with the mindset of like, Howell's my guy. I'm going to protect him. So the run first strategy is very much going to be there. We're going to give him throws, maybe half field. We're going to make sure we're going to scheme guys open, make sure he knows exactly where to go, maybe pull a Sean McVay and be in his ear right up until the 15-second clock cuts off like McVay used to do with Goff. Just make sure that Sam Howell's fully prepared, or whoever your quarterback is. If you bring somebody else in that beats him out, or if one of those rookie guys falls, it's basically the same mindset. You're gonna not put too much on them at the beginning, and you're gonna grow their workload as things progress, and hopefully it works out. And like Brian said, you turn water into wine.
Yeah,
and you get yourself another receiving tight end too.
Which
sounded like today Ron was talking in the presser. It sounds like he's bringing Logan Thomas back.
Really?
But I do think that another receiving tight end that is proven. Maybe it's Armani Rogers. Maybe it's Cole, whatever his name is,
Cole Turner.
Turner, who everybody was excited about last year and didn't do anything. Maybe it's one of those guys. Maybe you go and you get a Dalton Schultz in free agency, which I'm stumping for. But yeah, I think you bring in, the tight end, based on the Andy Reid offense, that play style, you bring in another receiving tight end that's a legit threat if you're going to bring back Logan Thomas as well.
What's that big guy you guys saw in training camp?
He was
on the practice.
Hodges.
Curtis Hodges. You're right.
Curtis Hodges, yeah.
There's another.
You got to go more experienced than that, I think. Because
Dalton Schultz, man, I love the guy, even though he's a Cowboy.
He's going to cost an arm and a leg too.
I don't care.
Not my money.
Spend that money on something that's right.
I don't know. Like going into the season again with Logan Thomas is just pie in the sky to me. I think you got to come in with a veteran that can start for you where needed. We saw absolutely nothing from the rest of the tight end group. You saw a flash from Armani Rogers, but that was it. You can't do that to yourself, especially if you expect to be competitive. Now, if their idea this year is to not focus on being competitive and just building out the depth of the roster, okay. But I think if you're planning to be an effective football club, you got to really address that position head on. And when you look at the NFC East, man, it's not going to be easy next year either. 3 of those teams made the playoffs. A couple of them aren't going to get that much worse this offseason. So we really got to figure out our way and what we're going to be and commit to going in that direction. So I like Logan Thomas well enough, but we need a starter who is going to be healthy and be on the field for the entire season. Just to close out the point about Bieniemy and the quarterback approach, if I'm Bieniemy, I'm doing whatever it is that's going to make me the most successful. And that means evaluating every single option and opportunity presented to me. And I'm going to make the best decision for this football team and for what I'm trying to do. I don't care who was here when I got here. That's not my problem. And he may love Sam Howell. He very well may be in love with Sam Howell. And if he is, he should rock with him the whole year. Develop him, give him every chance to succeed. But if he has doubts about Sam Howell, he should go out and address the position because that's what he should be empowered to do. To say, hey, this is what I need for my system. And this is what I want. This is the caliber and this is the type of player that I need to effectively run my offense. To answer your earlier question, Brian, about why would he come here, I think that's the answer. That he was given some assurances that he can decide who runs his offense.
I wasn't asking why he would come here. I know why. He wants to be a head coach. That's his driving factor. You don't interview 15 times because it's fun, because it's cool, because you've got nothing else better to do. That's why he came here. He has to get out from that shadow and show that he can do it. Whether that's fairly or unfairly, I believe it's unfairly, but he's got to at this point. He's got 2 Super Bowls. He shouldn't have to do that, but he has to. It isn't about quarterback. I like this guy over this guy. He wants to be a head coach, and he knows if I do it here in Washington, there's no more excuses. There's no owner who can say to me, legitimately, you don't deserve to be a head coach. It was Andy Reid. Well, it's not going to be Ron Rivera. He doesn't do anything with the offense. It's not going to be Ken Zampese. This will all be on him.
Yeah, but and that only really matters if they're successful on the field as a whole. I don't think you can go 4-13 and
As
then
long
be
as
like,
the
hey,
offense is better and productive, and Sam
no.
Howell doesn't throw 500 interceptions, you absolutely can do that. Because if the offense is or the defense is bad, like that, I mean, that has nothing to do with him. That's Ron Rivera.
Different conversation for a different time. But I absolutely don't think you can be a bad football team and still be petitioning for a head coaching position. I just not, especially
He's not the coach.
It doesn't matter. He's representing the football team.
No,
well, for 4-13, he's going to be looking for a new job anyway, along with the rest of the coaching staff. So why not head coach?
Because
I see Brian's point though. If
the offense just needs to be good,
if the defense collapses for whatever reason, and the offense he puts up a 35-point a game offense, and Sam Howell develops, but the team is just so bad because Ron Rivera doesn't know when to call timeouts and the defense is terrible. There are scenarios where I could see it happening, but I don't. I mean, I kind of see both of your points. I think if the team wins 4 games, the offense isn't going to be good. But if the team doesn't have to probably be a playoff team for him to get a job. I think if there's a big jump in the offense and the team is at minimum treading water from what they were last year, you may end up, he may get a coaching job at that point. But I think if the offense improves, I think the record improves. So we'll see.
It just doesn't work like that, especially with somebody with as much quote unquote perceived baggage, right or wrong, as Eric Bieniemy. He's not going to come and get a job if the team is not good. Period. It's not happening. Look at the hirings from last year. Jonathan Gannon. He came from where? The Eagles, right? Super Bowl team.
The loser Super Bowl Eagles.
Loser
right?
Of what? What they lose? The Super Bowl?
They lost the Super Bowl. They still lost. The enemy won it, and he can't get the job.
Lost the Super Bowl. Now you have a guy like
you don't even have to win anymore. What's the guy in Green Bay? LaFleur. He went to the Titans. They had a terrible offense. He got the Green Bay job.
What was their record?
These are all true facts.
What was their record when they had
like
that terrible
9-7, probably?
It was a winning record? Okay.
Frank Reich got fired and he got a job.
Yeah, this whole notion that the team has to do it when you're not even in charge of.
No, Frank Reich proved himself to be a terrible head coach last year, and
you're diluting the data pool. You're saying Frank Reich. How many times has Frank Reich been a head coach in the NFL? We're talking about a completely different circumstance. And by the way,
he never called plays.
All right, we're done.
Frank Reich got hired. He never called plays.
What's the Bengals head coach? What is Zach Taylor? He never called plays.
You're on a different conversation.
He got water for Sean McVay. He got water for Sean McVay one time, and he got a head coaching job.
What was their record when he was with Sean McVay? I mean, like
he wasn't part of it. He didn't do anything for it.
But he was part of a winning team, and that's where people pick their head coaches from. It's winning organizations. He came from college, right?
Yeah, and he was a loser in college. He had gotten fired from a head coaching job. He took an offensive coordinator job, and then he became a head coach. He didn't even coach in that offensive coordinator job.
All right, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah, we're getting way off topic.
We're getting off topic. We're totally getting off topic.
But anyway, all right. So, Eric, final thoughts?
Sam Howell for life. Don't draft Anthony Richardson.
That is hilarious. Brian, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I don't think some people are ready for Sam Howell for 17 games. Some people weren't ready for Brian Robinson to be RB1, and it happened. Sam Howell is going to be the starter for 17 games.
When you say some people, are you referring to anybody in particular? It sounds like you're being as specific with your generalizations.
No. This is for everybody who does not like Sam Howell.
Oh man, look, it's a good time. It's a good time. I think. Look, this football team has been so mediocre for so incredibly long. You will never, ever find me championing mediocrity. Period. Whoever that is, no matter who that is. We got to take big swings to get big results. And until somebody proves that they can be something beyond just mediocre, I don't care about them. I mean, I care about them as a human being, but I don't care about them in terms of loyalty for this franchise. Find the best players to do the best job and help us become the best team. We are a franchise in the 80s who couldn't be touched. We are a franchise in the early 90s with possibly the greatest team in the history of the NFL, period. We have potentially the greatest defense in the history of the NFL as part of our franchise. I am not tolerating mediocrity or selling for any player that falls into that category ever again. They've gotten us for 30 years with that nonsense. We need to be looking for ways to become winners and not just winners, champions, period. Or else I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to be average. I want to be above average. We're an above average franchise that's been playing below the Mendoza line for 30 straight years because of our owner, because of our GMs that we bring in that are friends of the owner, the Vinny Serratos, the Bruce Allens, everybody in between. And when we've had good players, we've let them go because we're trying to rub two sticks together and hit the lottery on somebody who probably doesn't deserve that opportunity as a frontline starter to begin with. I'm over that, period. Bring me guys with A-plus talent, blue chip guys, whatever you want to call them, because that's how you win in the NFL. That'll never be different from me from, the time that we started becoming this loser team that we're, every year. It's the same thing. We have a few flashes and then we go right back down to the bottom of the barrel in our division. I'm over those days. So I'm just not going to get in line to support something that's leading us to 7-10 or, 8-9 if we're really, really lucky. We need really good players. We need excellent elite players. What we don't need is more average players. Bottom line. Anyway, make sure you are subscribed to this podcast. Leave your comments. Tell your friends. Like, comment, subscribe, share the podcast. Washington Commanders Declassified. We are out of here.